All right, good evening and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel here. Everything to do with the Premier League and beyond, of course, with a major focus on some of your favorite teams from the Premier League and beyond. How has been your day? It's been a beautiful day. It's been a bit of a cold day, cloudy and chilly in some parts of Kampala, where I'm coming to you live from. And yeah, but nonetheless, that's why you can see I'm strapped once again in my small old jacket. But yeah, we'll get the conversation on tonight as well to make sure that we bring you the latest from the world of football. A lot has been happening in the last 8 hours in regards to transfers. Tottenham have dominated the affairs over the day in regards to transfer headlines, while other clubs have also been trying to make their pull during the course of the day. On the other side, Manchester United continue to get slammed by their own fans for their sloppiness or their lack of business, depending on how you look at it really. So that situation is up there as well. I do not know whether you guys whether you guys do follow the conversation as much as I do, but yeah, that's the situation at Manchester United, and fans are not happy given what's happening elsewhere. And I think for those of you that were part of our morning broadcast, we sort of spoke about something as quite similar in regards to that kind of a situation when we were speaking about Liverpool predominantly, that what happens elsewhere sort of has a ripple effect on what is perceived of another. For example, take the example, if you're somebody that is economically sound, if you can't afford to, hello Valerie, is that how you pronounce your name, Valerie? Hi, how are you doing? Welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Please consider liking the broadcast, but also subscribing to the channel. Do let me know where you guys are joining me, how your day has been. For me, I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda, a small landlocked country in the eastern part of Africa. That's where I'm coming to you live from. It's about 24 minutes past the hour of 10. So that's the time check here. Do let me know where you guys are joining us from, how your day has been, how everything is going for you. Are you okay? What's been your highlight of the day? What interests you really? And yeah, let's engage down in the comment section before I get to the full strength of my submissions. I can see Carol Love. Hi, Carol Love. What's your football team you played on? I did not play professional football. I only managed to play amateur football that dates to as far back as my school days. But thanks for asking, Carol Lowy. Thanks for asking. Please consider subscribing to the channel. I think that you're new here. That's Valerie, Carol Lowy, Evie Files. Sorry, Evie Flies. Yes, Evie Flies. Sorry for the mispronunciation. Evie Flies. Hi, how are you? Welcome to yet another live broadcast. We do this every single night and every single morning. But I know due to differences in time zones, some of you sort of do not catch some of these live broadcasts, but those that do watch them after they're done, we do really, really appreciate you. I just use that username, but you can call me Leland. That's my real name. Okay. Hi, Leland. Where are you joining us from? Do let me know what region or what country you're joining us from, and possibly if you're free to share what city particularly you're joining us from. But it's good to have you on the broadcast. Please consider liking the broadcast as well as for purposes of this particular broadcast. Let me know where you're joining us from, how your day has been, how everything is going for you. What team do you support? Are you a football fan? Are you just a person that engages with football randomly? What's your status? Any particular team? Where you from? So because usually I have colleagues here from India who I know pay a lot of allegiance to cricket, and yet they join us and we have a full-blown engagement in regards to football. Speaking of individuals, I want to say thank you so much, Zero Requiem. It was part of our lengthy conversation in the morning. That broadcast went on for quite some time. I think possibly it went on for about almost an hour and a half. He was with us. Of course, people like Cedric are from France. Of course, he had to leave us prematurely because he had an assignment to accomplish. But thank you so much, Cedric, for always sparing the time to join us. And then people like Safa Ali, people like Prissy Nkosi, people like David Melbourne Wampamba. I've been seeing your engagement on our content. That's football fan and baseball fan and hockey. Okay, that's interesting. Leland, that's interesting to know. Where are you joining us from? What country are you in? So people like David Melbourne Wampamba, they are the CEO of Ebo State. So for those of you that are interested in acquiring some digital skills like web design, coding, and cybersecurity, I will leave down a link in the description so that you can go check out Ebo State because they do offer trainings for those digital skills, and they are based in Kasanga, Kampala. So you do qualify for a 5% discount if you choose to subscribe with them. They offer both in-person and online training sessions for their trainees. So that's the gentleman, David Melbourne Wampamba, one of our usual suspects when you do, I do follow the conversation. Then the other person I wanted to mention is Mr. Kawumbi, very, very interesting gentleman, also engaged with our content. Then another is, that name is a bit difficult for me to read, but it's AQ. I think it's Aquama Z2Q, something like that. Oh, you're from the USA. That's quite interesting. Yeah, USA people are fans of baseball, American football. Then what we call football, they often refer to it as soccer. Daniel Peter, Darius, is that you? No, it's not Darius. My name is Robert, but thanks for asking. Do I look like Darius? Do let me know where do you know Darius from. And maybe, you never know. I could be knowing Darius, or we could have been separated at birth. So do let me know what your thoughts are there. Anyways, let's get started with the conversation for tonight, because Tottenham Hotspurs have been, stealing all the headlines in as far as our transfers are concerned. Yesterday, they did reach an agreement for the signing of Mohammad Kudus from West Ham in a deal worth about £55 million for the 24-year-old Ghanaian international. A left-footed attacker who can play across the entire front three. So very, very interesting news there for Thomas Frank and Daniel Levy, those at the helm of Tottenham Hotspurs, are getting the business done. He has successfully completed his medicals today. That's as per Fabrizio Romano. And but Tottenham did not waste any time in continuing their pursuit for other targets in this transfer window. But Mohammad Kudus was a target for teams like Chelsea. Other teams were also interested. I think Liverpool had been certainly mentioned. I do not know how strong their interest was in Mohammad Kudus. Arsenal were linked still during the course of this summer. I do not know how strong those interests were, but we do know that Arsenal and Chelsea do have a historical interest in Mohammad Kudus, because he is one of the players that they've been tracking for some good time, dating far back to his days at Ajax, where West Ham signed him 2 seasons ago or 2 years ago. That was in the summer of 2023 for about 34 million pounds plus a fee in that region. And now he switches from one London club to another, switching from West Ham to Tottenham Hotspurs. He has completed his medicals ahead of putting pen to paper on a 6-year contract there for the 24-year-old. Daniel Peter, I don't know why I was calling you Darius. Oh, hey, Daniel Peter says I look like Darius. Okay, I do not know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Darius could be an O.J. Simpson somewhere. But anyway, jokes aside, thanks for that. I'm going to try to get your. I'm going to try to get your viral. I'm going to go to ever live streams. I'm going to tell the chat to come your stream and tell them to subscribe. Thank you so much, Carol Leland there. Thank you so much for that favor. I do appreciate you really, really a great deal. So that's the situation at Tottenham Hotspur. Mohammad, of course, his numbers are not that great when you look at his statistics, but it goes without saying that there is a very good player in there. When you look at what he was able to do in his debut campaign for West Ham, it was quite impressive. Because in his debut campaign, he scored 8 goals and provided 6 assists. That's a 14-goal involvement. For a player who is just arrived in the Premier League, that's a good return on investment, really. And we thought, the ceiling was quite high for him to, further climb up. And he made 33 appearances in his debut season. However, his form declined last season, but of course, the entire West Ham team did not perform well last season. Really, we all know their problems. They ended up sacking the manager in Julian Lopetegui. That's the former Sevilla, ex-Real Madrid, and and Spain national team boss in Julian Lopetegui. They sacked him, and he was replaced by a former Chelsea and ex-Brighton manager in Graham Potter. So overall, West Ham did not have a very good season, so you could excuse his drop in numbers because his numbers dropped by nearly half because he only scored 5 goals and provided 3 assists. That's an 8-goal involvement overall, but that's a player that is joining Tottenham Hotspur. They are quite an interesting signing there for them. Cenk is back with us. Carol, send link to your video. We join live. Cenk, thank you so much, Cenk, for joining us. Cenk, I think I stand to be corrected, but I think Cenk is a Chelsea fan. So yeah, he's one of those that I've reached out in my private inbox to have, an extended engagement. So I do certainly remember him. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. Kindly like the broadcast as well. So good to have you. Good to have you back on the broadcast. So I think Mohammad Kudus is a very exciting signing for Tottenham Hotspur. I think given the way we've seen Thomas Frank work with players like Iwan Bisa, with players like Brandon Bomo, how he's been able to improve them really, how he worked with Ivan Toney. I think he will be able to improve Mohammad Kudus, especially when it comes to his decision making in the final third. Sometimes he goes for the shot when there's an opportunity maybe to provide an assist, and he ends up blazing his shots wide of the mark. So his conversion rate is really low. I think he will work to improve on that, among other things. So when it comes to pace, dribbling, he's really one of the very good players. In terms of ball carries, he's one of the good ones in the Premier League that there is. So my expectations of him at Tottenham Hotspur, I do expect him to thrive. I think he will give them some good competition. Let's face it, Tottenham are going to be playing in the UEFA Champions League, so they ought to have the material of players. They ought to have the squad depth, but also players that can compete at that level. So that's why they are really going for very good players. Speaking of going for very good players, they have agreed a deal to activate Morgans Gibbs-White is release clause from Nottingham Forest. Now, apparently, we had just learned all the news that they were turning their attention to signing Morgans Gibbs-White, the 25-year-old England international, who did attract a bit of interest from the likes of Manchester City during the course of this summer. That Tottenham were now, switching their attention to signing him. And I do not want to say it is a surprise, because Morgans Gibbs-White is one of those very good attacking midfielders, very good with the ball on his feet. He can dribble past players, he can drive that ball forward, he has a good final pass, so he is no stranger to providing an assist or creativity. And the moment I learned that news, my first thought went to James Maddison, and I was telling myself, oh, Tottenham already have James Maddison, but let's not forget James Maddison is one of those very, very good players, but also oftentimes injury prone. So oftentimes he suffers these injuries, and I do not remember the last time he played an entire campaign. So you cannot rely on him for 38 games in the Premier League, but also the other campaigns that are serious as the UEFA Champions League. So that news broke to us during the course of the day, and no sooner had it broken than we also learned about the release clause in that contract. That was, of course, according to the Athletic's David Ornstein, who sort of brought that news, because he told us earlier on in the day that Tottenham were turning their attention to Nottingham Forest midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White, that the head coach, that's Thomas Frank, is a long-term admirer of the 25-year-old, and Spurs will try to convince the England international to join if a deal can be agreed. Then that was then approximately about an hour later, he was back to tell us that Morgan Gibbs-White's contract is believed to include a £60 million release clause. Tottenham Hotspurs working to sign the midfielder from Nottingham Forest. So again, and then barely, I think this was just a couple of minutes later, Chen is asking which midfielder is more superior. Which midfield is more superior? Chelsea, City, Arsenal, Liverpool. Wow, Chen, that's a broad question. But thank you for bringing it forward. We're going to discuss it in a bit after concluding with Tottenham's pursuits for Morgan Gibbs-White. So then, barely minutes later, he came back to tell us that Morgan Gibbs-White is scheduled to undergo a medical. That's tomorrow, on Friday, ahead of a proposed move from Nottingham Forest to Tottenham Hotspurs. The 25-year-old England international has a £60 million release clause that has been activated by Tottenham. Now, again, you see, when a team really wants a player and they know how valuable they think that player is to their project, they won't hesitate in pursuing that player. They will do whatever it takes to get that player. And that's where I think fans of Arsenal, fans of Manchester United will sort of feel hard done by. We all know that Man United acted quickly in the pursuit for Matthias Cunha, but then also we know for a fact that Arsenal are dragging their feet on Ebelechi Eze. They are interested in signing the 27-year-old from Crystal Palace. We know he has a £68 million release clause has a £68 million release clause in his contract, which is £60 million as the guaranteed fees plus £8 million in expected add-ons, which is apparently payable over installments. But what we are learning is that they want to go in and try and negotiate and pay a lesser fee. And once you open that can of worms, then the fee could be higher or could be less. So it depends on how the clubs do value. And we all know, I think he has 3 years left with his current contract. That ability is. Hello, my brother. Any good news from Liverpool? We will get to Liverpool, but they've not really made any headlines lately, if I'm being honest. But there is news at Liverpool, especially regarding Luis Diaz. And now you can see in this case, Tottenham are acting quick. They've simply gone in. They've learned about the release clause in the player's contract, and they've agreed to activate that. And on the move, the player is going to do a medical tomorrow and get that deal over the line. We saw how Newcastle acted really quick in completing that deal for Anthony Elanga. Of course, having lost the one of João Pedro from Brighton to who ended up going to Chelsea. So, but again, in that similar breadth, we saw how fast Chelsea acted in signing João Pedro, and then, of course, that was immediately, literally after agreeing a deal because they agreed a deal in principle with Borussia Dortmund on Thursday, and then by Sunday they were signing João Pedro. So that's 2 immaculate players already added to their ranks. And here we are about Tottenham Hotspurs. Yesterday they agreed a deal for Mohammad Kudus. He's completed a medical today. Today they've activated the release clause for Morgan Gibbs-White, and tomorrow he's doing a medical. They are also interested, apparently, in the signing of 28-year-old a Democratic Republic of Congo striker in Yohan Wissa or Yohan Visa, depending on how you pronounce the name. So apparently, Tottenham are interested, but also Nottingham Forest are renewing their interest in the same player because they had interest in January, but they could not land the 28-year-old and are going back in. But Tottenham cannot be discounted. Let's not forget, Thomas Frank, formerly at Brentford, is the one now at Tottenham Hotspurs. So possibly he could have a sway on players that could be coming from Brentford to join him at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So that news is there for the taking. So I think Morgans Gibbs-White will be a very exciting signing for Tottenham Hotspurs. Given the numbers he's posted, he's one of those players that you can really rely on in terms of availability over the last 3 campaigns in the Premier League that Nottingham Forest have been available. He's played 35 games in that was 2022-2023. Then the subsequent season he played 37, and last season he played 34 games. So that speaks to his availability. In terms of numbers posted, 2022-2023 season, he scored 5 goals and provided 8 assists, while last season, but one, which is 2023-2024, he scored a similar number of goals, 5, but provided more assists. That was 10. So you can see from a 13-goal involvement to a 15-goal involvement. That's progress. Then last season, he scored 7 goals and provided 8 assists. That's a 15-goal involvement once again, which is quite impressive. I can see I do not have of the chat so far, and some of them listened, and I'm trying to get you really viral. Thank you so much, Carol Leland or Carol Lowy. I have to go. Sorry, I really want to watch you longer. Thank you so much, Carol, for being with us for the period that you've managed to be with us. But I hope you can always return to the channel, and I hope you've already subscribed. So that's the situation at Tottenham Hotspur. They're really looking to recruit more players, bearing in mind that next season they will be competing in the UEFA Champions League. We do know for a fact that Atletico Madrid are interested in signing Christian Romero from Tottenham Hotspur, but let's wait and see if they will firm up that interest with an offer, because apparently Tottenham do value the player at about 60 million pounds. I did subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow or later today. Most definitely. Thank you so much, Carol, for that subscription to the channel. Then, okay, quickly, because things are moving a little bit fast. But that's basically, essentially, the situation around Tottenham Hotspur. We will perhaps revisit it in another discussion or wider context that will be coming in the coming days. So let's now sort of attack the lion in the room, because Cheng has given us a hard paper with his question when he asked that which is the best in midfield, which midfield is more superior when he looks at Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. Now, I'll take them in order, in the manner in which he's given them. One, we'll start with Chelsea. What's Chelsea's best midfield? Personally, I do think it depends on what game you're playing. One, that's for starters. But Moises Caicedo's quality isn't one to question. Same applies for Enzo Fernandez. And then because these days they've been in some games they've been playing with Moises Caicedo alongside Enzo Fernandez, with Cole Palmer ahead of them in that sort of diamond shape. And then they go on with their front three with either Liam Delap. The other day it was Joao Pedro with Pedro Neto on one side, and then Christopher Nkunku on the other side. So that's how they've been really setting up. And yet in some cases we've seen Chelsea also play with a double pivot of Moises Caicedo alongside Romeo Lavia. And then ahead of them will be Enzo Fernandez to play in that attacking midfield role. So then also, when you look at the wider context of Chelsea, they also have Andre Santos in that sort of setup or composition, who was on loan away last season at Strasbourg. And Enzo Maresca said he does look at him as a player in the mold of in the mold of Enzo Fernandez, both attacking midfielders. Then they also did sign Dario Esugo. Sorry, they signed, yes, Dario Esugo from Las Palmas. That was in January and left him out on loan, but he since joined the club. He's a central midfielder, signed for about 18.4 million pounds. So Chelsea's midfield is really, really strong. One, they have the experience of Moises Caicedo as far as the Premier League is concerned. I think Enzo Fernandez has really, really clicked. He did struggle in his debut season, which was a half season. That was in because he joined in January 2023. And so was it in January 2023? I stand to be corrected because he joined after the FIFA Club World Cup. That was the one that was played in Qatar, you know. So he joined quickly, and because Chelsea underwent different managers. So yeah, I think January 2023, and then he played the first half of the season, then the entire 2023-2024 season, and then last season. So he's sort of gone in that role, and oftentimes we've seen him wear the captain's armband, especially in the absence of Rachel James. So I think Chelsea really, really have that very, very good team in that midfield, that mid composition. What I would fault it for, maybe where I think they are lacking is a bit of experience, because we are talking about players who are really good, but in terms of playing at the top level for a very long time, we know that Moises Caicedo, again, he just during the course of this season, that's when he's literally found his moji to be that impressive, and we know how expensively they paid for him. Then let's move on to which team? What was the next team there in your suggestion? Manchester City. Manchester City, we all know they have a Ballon d'Or winner in Rodri. Then in that same midfield, you have now Bernardo Silva, who is the captain. You do have Mateo Kovacic, although from what we are gathering is that apparently Pep Guardiola has told the club that they should listen to offers for Mateo Kovacic, who they only signed for about 25 million pounds from Chelsea about 3 seasons ago. Then also in that same midfield, you have Nico Gonzalez, who they signed from FC Porto in January. Now, apparently, they're also willing to listen to offers for Nico Gonzalez because they think it's not really clicked. You do have a youngster in there called James McAtee. You still have the experienced Ilkay Gundogan, who apparently has attracted interest from Galatasaray, although we are yet to see a bid. And Man City could be willing to listen to offers for Ilkay Gundogan. Then the other player that they do have in that midfield is, we won't consider Calvin Phillips because he's basically not played in the Manchester City's jersey. They have Matthias Nunes, although he is predominantly played at right back because of their right back challenges, and that's why they've been pursuing a deal for Tino Livramento from Newcastle. However, apparently, I was reading some report that Newcastle will be demanding for 80 million pounds for Tino Livramento. I do not think Man City would be willing to pay that. Not that they can't, but we've seen that these days they are not inclined to overpay for players. Then quickly, what name am I forgetting in that midfield? I feel like I'm forgetting a name in that sort of central midfield for Manchester City. Yes, Tijani Reinders. They've just gotten Tijani Reinders from AC Milan to add to that midfield. So you really look at that composition. Let's be honest. Bernardo Silva is not the player he was 2-3 years ago. Rodri, he's just recovered from that very long-term injury, the anterior cruciate ligament injury. While he is a very, very good player, we do not know how he is going to fare going forward. But if his history is anything to go by, then, I mean, him playing alongside Jan Reinders, and then ahead of them, I do suspect could be Omar Mamouche, because he could play in that role, or it could be Phil Foden that plays ahead of them, or Ryan Cherki playing ahead of them. Then you'll have Jeremy Doku and Omar Mamouche, or Savinho, and then Erling Haaland, depending on how Pep Guardiola chooses to tinker with his team. I think, given their experience, the new member would only be essentially Tijani Reinders. Of course, Nico Gonzalez, who I do not fault much, could equally fit in that team. So there is a very good midfield in that. Then the next one you mentioned was Arsenal. Now, Arsenal have had, I think, too many changes, although they are only two in that midfield. One, we all know they've lost Jorginho, who has joined Flamengo as a free agent. We all know that they failed to renew Thomas Partey's contract, so he's left the club also as a free agent. And in that strength, they've replaced those two with Martin Zubimendi coming in as a replacement for Thomas Partey, and then Christian Nogard coming in as a replacement for Jorginho in terms of being a squad player. That's the 31-year-old, by the way, who was unveiled today. That's Christian Nogard, still a new father. Their kid is about what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, really. So, and then they also have Declan Rice, they have Mikel Merino, they've signed Martin Zubimendi. Now, that is some sort of firepower in terms of a midfield, because Martin Zubimendi, we all know, all top clubs have been really trying to sign him. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Arsenal themselves, they were all trying to land his services. 26 years of age, quite experienced. We saw him in the Euros 2024. He did play in that final after Rodri got injured. He did play in that final against England, and he fit in like a sort of a glove. We've seen him during the course of the UEFA Nations League, albeit Spain lost eventually in the finals by 5-3 on penalties that proceeded a 2-all draw in normal time. But we saw him score a goal in that against Portugal in the final. Then we saw his sort of midfield splitting pass in providing a pre-assist in one of the goals that they scored against France. Was it against France? Yes, in that 5-4 victory at the semi-finals. For those of you that do remember, either it was in the goal that was scored by Mikel Merino or the one that was scored by Oyarzabal, but most probably the one scored by Mikel Merino. So he is a very, very good player. Whether he will, I have no doubt he will fit in the Arsenal system, but I wait to see how he does adapt to the Premier League. So the question of adaptability is really, really key in this particular case in regards to the physicality and the pace of the Premier League as we know it. Then you have Christian Nogard, quite experienced. He's been at Brentford, I think, for the last 6 years. We know Brentford have been in the top flight for 4 seasons now. That's starting from the 2022 season, because that's when actually starting from 2021, 2022, then 2022, 2023, 23, 24, 24, 25. Yes, 4 seasons. Because you remember, in their first game in the Premier League, that's for the 2021-2022 season, they beat up against Arsenal at the GTEC Stadium by 2-0. Because I do remember that game vividly, because after the game, Ivan Toney went and tweeted something like, "Nice kick about with the boys." Arsenal had some cases of COVID-19 and had requested to have that game rescheduled, but the Premier League refused. So anyways, so Christian Nogard comes with that experience. 4 years in the Premier League, he has that experience. And ever since he started playing in the Premier League, there's no player that has managed more interceptions than him. Is he as good as Thomas Partey? Overall, Thomas Partey is a better player, really, if we are being honest. So he's better with ball interceptions, but when you look at ball carries, the way Thomas Partey was able to carry that ball forward, especially progressively, the way he shielded the ball, we wait to see how, again, Christian Nogard fits into that Arsenal mold. You have Declan Rice, who we all know that can play as a number 6, but has been predominantly played as a number 8. Then you have Mikel Merino, who we all know is a number 8, but he did struggle to fit in the Premier League, especially playing in that midfield, and things clicked for him when Arsenal played him as a false 9. And I think by that time he had sort of adapted to the Premier League, and that was around February. And his first game was coming off the bench, I think, to score a brace against Leicester City. So, and I think he went on to score about 7 goals, really, in that role. So quite a very good player. Then also you have Martin Odegaard. Now, ideally, if every piece of the puzzle was to click in place, I do suspect that Mikel Arteta would prefer to start with Martin Zubimendi as his number 6, Declan Rice as his number 8, alongside Martin Odegaard as his creative, captain. And then as backup player, you have Mikel Merino for Declan Rice, and then you have Christian Nogard for Martin Zubimendi. Then you have Ethan Nwaneri, should he go ahead and sign a new contract, as a backup for Martin Odegaard, although they are also considering making a move for Ebeleche Eze. Things could change. So in terms of the options are available, but based on what is present, I do think that Arsenal equally have a very, very strong midfield. Now, in the work of Arsenal's pursuit for a striker, I do not think Kai Havertz's team role in the team will really change. I think he will continue to play as a striker or as a number 10. Hi, Bruno. Welcome back to the channel. Good to have you rejoin us once again. Please like the broadcast while you're still with us. So I think Arsenal equally have a very, very good midfield. Then again, I want to first conclude them, Cenk, before I sort of grade them for you, based on my opinion. And then we move to lastly, Liverpool. I think that was yes, you said Liverpool. Now Liverpool have Wataru Endo, they have Ryan Gravenberch, they have Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai in their main composition of a midfield. But we know they've added on Florian Wirtz, who can play as that attacking midfielder, more like either as predominantly as a number 10. So that is quite really exciting. Of course, in that mix, you have players like Harvey Elliott, you have Tsimikas, who basically is like for those of you that do remember John Oshie at Manchester United, who could play literally anywhere in that team. And then at one point he was, in the goal for United. I do not remember what game specifically, but so Liverpool, we're talking about a team that won the Premier League title last season, and Ryan Gravenberch is now still 22, 23 years of age, was very, very impressive. Dominic Szoboszlai, his ball distribution is nothing to question. Now, actually, in the work of the signing of Florian Wirtz, my question was who is going to be sacrificed, because I have a feeling that Liverpool will either have to sacrifice their target man, who will be, let's say, the de facto number 9, and play with Florian Wirtz in the kind of role that Roberto Firmino used to play for them in that trio of Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, and Mo Salah. Or they would have to sacrifice one of the midfielders, either Dominic Szoboszlai or Alexis McAllister, to start Florian Wirtz, because you do not pay £100 million for a player and have them sit on the bench. So depending on how Arne Slot sets up, we could have one of those players sacrificed. Of course, last season, we know they've been predominantly playing with Mohamed Salah, Luis Diaz, as well as Cody Gakpo or Diego Jota, depending. Cenk says, do you have time tomorrow? We go live at my channel at 11 p.m. Eastern time. Let's revisit that conversation on a different forum, Cenk. So you look at that composition of Liverpool. We're talking about a side that won the Premier League title. We are talking about a side that finished top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League format, before they crashed out at the hands of PSG at the round of 16, going out on penalties. So them finishing at the summit of that UEFA Champions League group is quite equally impressive. So now, in terms of grading, on paper, I would say it's a bit of a hard one to call, really, but I'll say Liverpool as number 1. Why? Because they showed us that chemistry last season, that they do have it in Ryan Gravenberch, Dominic Szoboszlai, and Alexis McAllister, even when sometimes he changed that format, and because sometimes Dominic Szoboszlai was rested, another time it was Alexis McAllister rested, but they still showed us. And the back, where I think Liverpool are weaker overall, is in their backup, especially when you look at the number 6 role. They have Wataru Endo, and that's why last summer, before the start of the season, they were looking to sign Martin Zubimendi, but they missed out on him because he decided to stay at Real Sociedad. So I get the feeling that if, let's say, they were to get a very decent backup, recently, before the end of the season, they were being linked with the potential move to Crystal Palace's Adam Wharton. in that role, as well as Man United. He has also been previously linked with the potential move to teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid. That's Adam Wharton. Very, very good youngster there. I think only 20 years of age or 21, Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace. So, but in terms of starters, I think Liverpool, I'll put them number one. Number two, I'll put in Chelsea's midfield. And primarily it's because they played together for now quite some time. The challenge is Romeo Lavia keeps getting injured and breaks that pattern. But even if he's out, we know Moises Caicedo has clicked in full gear. Enzo Fernandez, and then ahead of them is Cole Palmer. Then in number three, I'll go with Arsenal. Now, the reason as to why I put Arsenal number three is simply because we are yet to see what Martin Zubimendi is capable of in an Arsenal jersey. Christian Nogard, although he's been in the Premier League, we do not know how he's going to fare at Arsenal. It wouldn't be the first time we see a Premier League player come from one Premier League team and fail to do it at another Premier League team. The best example I can give is Calvin Phillips. He came from Leeds United. After they had been in the Premier League and he was quite decent, he failed at Manchester City. He went out on loan. I think, where was that? Was it at West Ham? Yes, at West Ham when they were still under David Moyes and things did not work out pretty well. Last season he was at Ipswich Town, where again, overall, you cannot say that things really, really worked out perfectly for him. Otherwise, he would be on the radar of so many Premier League teams. Then with again, still with Arsenal, because Mikel Merino has not played consecutively with a composition of either Declan Rice or Martin Zubimendi alongside Martin Odegaard, would not know how that chemistry will be. So that's why I put them at number three. Then, I mean, it's even sad to think that I'm putting a Man City's midfield at number four. But my reasons are these. Again, as good as Rodri is, we saw how Al Hilal were able to get at Man City. But meanwhile, I get the feeling that there's too many changes going on at Manchester City. Then we've spoken about the age profile of some of the senior players, that they are no longer at that level they used to be at about 2-3 years ago. When you look at Ilkay Gundogan, when you look at Bernardo Silva, as good as they are, of course, once in a while they will have that really, really good game, or not once in a while, they will give you a set of very good games, but overall, during the course of the marathon of the season, I feel they will be a bit off. Let's not forget that midfield has lost a player that has been there for the last 1 decade in Kevin De Bruyne, and while in some spells he's been injured, I mean, his contribution is without a doubt. I think I was speaking in one forum and I voted Kevin De Bruyne as my best Premier League player in the last 10 years, and somebody was against my view, which I respected. And for them it was Mohamed Salah. But for me, I chose Kevin De Bruyne because he has been that good in the last 10 years. So because they've lost that kind of player, and we do not know again how many outgoings there's going to be, but I feel that this new composition. Again, Phil Foden, we know he fell off the wagon last season. He's looking to get back to his very best. We do not know how soon or how fast he will get back to that. Tijan Reinders, we do not know how quickly he will cope to the pace of the Premier League. It could be an instant click. It could take him some time, similar to what the example given with Mikel Merino. So that's how I would grade them. Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City. Now, it's, of course, once the season starts and we get to watch all these players play and how managers assemble them, which could be equally a factor, we'll get to see essentially which midfield is much better than all the others. But for me, in my personal assessment, that's how I would grade them or rank them. But thank you so much, really. Thank you so much, Cenk, for that very, very wonderful question. It sort of expanded our debate beyond the scope of what we had hoped we would discuss tonight. Now, with that said, allow me to take a sip of water. Anyway, so with that said, let's go and respond to Mariam, who was asking about if there's any news regarding Liverpool. Now, like I said, there's not really too much going on around Liverpool, but we do know Liverpool will be in the market for a left winger. Now, I did say this. Unfortunately, Liverpool lost Diego Jota. Now, whether he was bound to leave the club during the course of this summer or not, that we will never know really for sure, because of what happened, unfortunately. So I do feel or know for a fact, okay, not 100%, but given how Liverpool operates and how they love to have so many options in their attacking ranks, I do think that they're going to have to replace Diego Jota in terms of a squad player. Then we know they are interested in signing, I think, a left winger, and for that they've been linked with a potential move for Anthony Gordon from Newcastle, who they wanted to sign last summer. When Newcastle were really trying to have their books in order in regards to the profit and sustainability awards. Then, in the wake of Rodrigo's potential departure from Real Madrid, Liverpool have sort of been brought to the conversation in the pursuance of Rodrigo Goes from Real Madrid. But let's wait and see whether they can be able to firm up that interest. If it is indeed concrete, then we do know for a fact that Liverpool want to sign a striker, but them signing a striker is dependent on them moving on Darwin Núñez, who is of interest or a number one priority target for Napoli. They do want to sign the 26-year-old, Uruguayan international. And in the morning, for those of you that missed our broadcast or that were unable to join us, we're having a very lengthy debate with Zero Requiem, who is a Liverpool fan, and he was talking about how sort of they get rewarded when it comes to selling players. He thinks they do not sell their players for the right value, that they sell them on a cheap, and are selling him. I think most fans, amongst some of the big teams in the Premier League, will sort of feel that way. But that notwithstanding, he was trying to make an argument that apparently Darwin Núñez should be way more valued than north of £50 million, and as making the case as telling him even £50 million at the current stage where he is an exaggeration, because he's not really posted the numbers. Things have not really happened for him in the Liverpool jersey. Let's not try to sugarcoat it. The striker that Liverpool signed in the summer of 2022 has not posted the numbers that they had hoped he would post, and that's why he's not been a mainstay in that Liverpool team in regards to being a starter as the outright striker. So let's not forget that. Then, so that's really what is happening with Liverpool, but they will be in the market. They're also interested in getting a defender. Reports have linked them with a potential move to Mark Gahey, 24-year-old England international, the captain at Crystal Palace. And then, because Ibrahim Konate has refused to sign a new contract, their reports are beginning to emerge that he could leave this summer and join Real Madrid, and that Liverpool may not want to lose him yet on a free transfer. So that situation could depend on a number of factors, but Liverpool need to find a backup because they've let go of Joel Quensha, so they need to bring somebody in their backline. They've already covered the situation with the goalkeeper because they had already signed Mama Dashville from Sevilla, so that situation is really covered. So basically, that's what really is going on at Liverpool. But expect good things. Liverpool are still really active in the market. They've equally been pointed in the direction of Morgan Gibbs-White. Sorry, not Morgan Gibbs-White. Morgan Rogers. Yes, Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa, who also has been put in the conversation for Arsenal. So we will keep monitoring that situation and see where everything leads in regards to Liverpool. So, but that's to answer Mariam Nalmas's question about the updates from Liverpool. Then, quickly, I think we should move away from that. Arsenal, beyond the confirmation of Christian Nogard, and not much has really been going on. What remains is the expectation that we've spoken about before, that Arsenal could soon approach Crystal Palace for Ebelechi Eze. Still no agreement for Victor Gyökeres because, Mariam says, thank you, brother. you're most welcome, Mariam. I thank you for staying with us for all that time. And then regarding Victor Yokeres, still no agreement. Then regarding Noni Madueke, still no agreement. So all those deals are still sort of hung up in the air there. But I think next week could be crucial for Arsenal in pursuit of at least one of those players, either of Noni Madueke, Victor Yokeres, or Ebelechi Eze, but most importantly, Victor Yokeres and Noni Madueke, one of those two. And again, Arsenal fans are questioning, why are you failing to pay the extra 5 million euros to get Victor Yokeres, and yet you're busy making bids in the region of 50 million pounds for Chelsea's Noni Madueke? Where are your priorities? Where do the priorities lie? Because we know for a fact that the Arsenal sporting director in Andre Bata made a trip to Portugal during the course of this week to try and seal a deal for Victor Yokeres and came back empty-handed. So, of course, we know the talks are advanced. We know the situation with Victor Yokeres. He's told Sporting Lisbon he's not returning for a pre-season. He wants to, to join Arsenal. But if Arsenal are reluctant to pay that extra 5 million euros, which then meets Sporting Lisbon's 70 million euros overall, it remains to be seen, really. Then there won't be a deal because Sporting say they want 70 million euros as guaranteed fees. That's about 65 or 63 million pounds. Then plus 10 million euros in expected add-ons. So while Arsenal are reluctant to, make the total valuation of 80 million euros, predominantly because if they pay that, perhaps it affects how they move on in the markets going forward for their other targets. But I mean, the striker is your primary target in this window. About anything else. Now, it's not to say that you do not need a Bukayo Saka backup. You obviously need one. But I mean, what's the actual priority? So those are some of the questions emanating from the Arsenal fan base. Manuel Neuer, good, yeah. I mean, Manuel Neuer is basically an active legend of the game. He's an active legend of the game. I forget what happened to him in their 2-0 loss against PSG in the quarterfinals of the ongoing FIFA Club World Cup. He is still a very, very good goalkeeper. So, but that's the situation regarding Arsenal for the Arsenal fans. Then, of course, there are reports that the new Parma manager or head coach, that's Carlos Cuesta, formerly at Arsenal, could make a move to sign Fabio Vieira for about 20 million euros. That's the 25-year-old Portuguese international, spent last season on loan at FC Porto, where he scored 4 goals and provided 4 assists. So not the best, really, in terms of numbers posted during the course of the campaign, but apparently he could look to recruit him. We will keep tabs on that situation and see where it does lead. Then Manchester City did today sign they did sign Mamadou Sangare from PSG. He's a youngster joining PSG, only 18 years old. He's a striker. So Densile Immobile did complete his move to Bologna. That's in the Italian Serie A. After parting ways with Besiktas in Turkey. So that deal is also done. Then Rodrigo De Paul, that talks continue with with Inter Miami for a transfer of the Atletico Madrid player. Then Rodrigo Goes continues to make news. Apparently, the Real Madrid board are all in agreement that they should part ways with Rodrigo Goes, and they do value him at 100 million euros. So let's wait and see. Some reports, and this is according to Fabrizio Romano, it's believed that he is set for a meeting with Xabi Alonso next week. And then according to Marca, it is believed that there is a lot of egos within that Real Madrid dressing room, and that they will be looking they are willing to back Xabi Alonso to try and tame those egos. And yesterday, basically, we're having the same debate on this very forum yesterday night when we were assessing the performance of Real Madrid in comparison to that of PSG, and we drew comparisons of how PSG play as a whole team, while Real Madrid still are playing as a collection of stars. You have Kylian Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Junior, as the key protagonists in that mold of individuals. And then when you look at Gonzalo Garcia is not yet, a regular to say that he has grown wings. Rodrigo Goes would sort of fit that mold of another star. When it comes to their counter pressing, and then really, really not very good at it, especially their forwards. And that's what Xabi Alonso is going to be trying to nurture during the course of preseason. But I do not fault him really whatsoever for the kind of performance they put in yesterday against the champions of Europe, really, because he's not had a preseason basically. He was being tossed into the deep end straight away by starting up with the tournament that he's had to manage. So that situation is at that. Then quickly, maybe some transfer gossip and speculation regarding some of your favorite clubs. Of course, we spoke about some of this in the morning. Napoli is still apparently interested in Garnacho. That's according to the Mirror. United still hopeful that they will agree a deal for Brandon Bomo before the start of their preseason tour in the USA. Arsenal still negotiating for Victor Gyökeres. Newcastle rejecting a bid for Sean Longstaff from Leeds United. That bid was worth about £10 million plus £2 million in expected add-ons. Then apparently Al Hilal could renew their interest in Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig, while Aston Villa and Brighton are all following highly related Benin attacking midfielder Rodolphe Aloko, 18 years of age, from Croatian side NK Kostosija. That's according to the Mail. Then Man United apparently are considering selling Jordan Sancho for a slightly lesser fee. That's according to Give Me Sport. Those are some of the rumors and speculations. Then Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace are interested in signing Manchester City midfielder. That's James McAtee, 22 years of age. He was part of that England squad that won the Euros under 21. Then apparently Liverpool could join Arsenal in the pursuit for Rodrigo Goes should Luis Diaz leave the club. So again, pretty much what we've really already discussed, while AC Roma are looking to sign Ivan Ferguson from Brighton and Hove Albion on an initial loan. So let's wait and see how things develop on that front. Then there are reports from Turkey, although our colleague from Turkey, Safar Ali, is not here with us to try and confirm these reports, because usually when I read reports from Turkey, I take them with a pinch of salt. But there are reports suggesting that Fenerbahce have a preliminary agreement with Leandro Trossard, and that they are interested in signing him from Arsenal. And I do know for a fact that because his contract renewal talks with Arsenal have sort of stalled, Arsenal could be willing to, if the right offer came, they could be willing to listen to offers for the 30-year-old, a Belgian international. So we will keep tabs on that situation as well if something concrete does seep through our ears. Then Simon Adingra did formally join as a Sunderland player. Of course, that deal is worth £21 million from Brighton and Hove Albion, with I think about 3 million. Sorry, the deal is worth 21 million euros, with an expected 3 million euros in add-ons. That's Simon Adingra, the 2023 Young Africa Cup of Nations player of the tournament. So then Edin Dzeko has officially joined Fiorentina as a new striker there. I think he's going to be a backup for Moises Kean, unless, unless Fiorentina lose Moises Kean. Remember, Fiorentina are going to be under the charges of Stefano Pioli going into next season after he part ways with Al Nassr. So, and at Al Nassr, he was replaced by George Jesus, who had left Al Hilal, where he was at Al Hilal. George Jesus was replaced by Simone Inzaghi. Simone Inzaghi, who himself part ways with Inter Milan, and at Inter Milan, he was replaced by Christian Chivu. Christian Chivu coming from Parma, where at Parma, they've now appointed Carlos Cuesta from Arsenal, because he was an assistant coach there. The 29-year-old Spanish gaffer is going to be the youngest manager in the Italian Serie A. That's Carlos Cuesta. Then The other managerial changes do involve AC Roma. They did appoint Gian Piero Gasperini after he left Atlanta, while at Atlanta, Ivan Juricic is the new boss there. So all that is ongoing. If there's anything you feel I've missed out, do put it down in the comment section and we will discuss it before we sign off today. But some reports have, this was according to Fabrizio Romano today, he said Napoli president De Laurentiis has not released any statement or interview about Alejandro Garnacho. Napoli are also not working on Garnacho deal at this stage, as had been apparently reported by Mirror in the UK. So we will keep tabs on that situation as well. Then of course, there's an ongoing petition that is being signed by Arsenal fans. They're saying no to Noni Madueke. They do not want the club to sign Noni Madueke. Now, and primarily, and the reason as to why this is gaining traction is because Arsenal fans feel that signing Noni Madueke first will impact on all the other business that they could sign. But if, let's say, Arsenal, sign Victor Gyökeres, Rodrigo Goes, and Eberechi Eze, they will have no problem with the addition of Noni Madueke. But then the other issue is that they feel that Arsenal are paying their opponent to further strengthen his squad by getting his rejects. So that's how they look at it. But there's a story that looks at some of the data, some of the data at why Arsenal are choosing Noni Madueke. But when it boils down to numbers, Simon Adingra in 60 appearances in the Premier League scored 8 goals. And Noni Madueke in 67 scored 13 goals. And Brighton just sold Simon Adingra for under £20 million. But apparently Arsenal are bidding 50 for Noni Madueke. That's an extra £30 million. That's why Arsenal fans are not really happy. But like I said, while I make all arguments of for or against these kinds of moves, I do conclude that trust that Arsenal have a team of analysts who have sat down and looked data of about different players and zeroed down to Noni Madueke as the primary target. But should they fail in that pursuit, then it's not to say that they do not have alternatives. The other day we did mention Malik Fofana at Olympique Lyon, and we will see what more there could be, what else there could be in regards to other potential, alternatives there. So let's wait and see in regards to Arsenal's pursuit for Noni Madueke there. But Arsenal fans are not amused one bit in their pursuit for Noni Madueke. Then, of course, we've told you Liverpool's long-standing interest in Hugo Ekitike. That's a striker from Eintracht Frankfurt. That's a long-standing interest, and this is if Liverpool discover in the next few days or weeks that the door is open for Alexander Isak. Sorry. That the door for Alexander Isak is 100% shut, they will pivot to Hugo Ekitike. I think that door is really closed. If you're Newcastle, you're not strengthening with the likes of Anthony Elanga, trying to pursue João Pedro, and possibly some reports have said that they could consider making a move for Hugo Ekitike themselves, Newcastle, and then you let go of your prime star player in Alexander Isak. So I do not expect that to be happening. Then, yeah, basically that's it, really. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. Allow me wrap this one here. It's been a pleasure having you for the last 1 hour and 4 minutes. You've been good company to me. Have yourselves a blessed night. But thank you so much, Valerie Martinovu. Thank you so much, Carlo Lowy or Carlo Leland, as you clarified. EV Flies, thank you so much for being with us. Daniel Peter, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Cenk, thank you so much for being part of tonight's conversation. Thank you so much, Bruno, for chipping in as well. Thank you so much, Mariam Narmansi, the Liverpool fan, and all those that managed to join us during the course of this broadcast. Whether you liked the broadcast, whether you didn't like, whether you sent in a comment or you did not send it, I still do appreciate you dedicating some time to be with us tonight. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure doing this with you. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the night, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for the Friday morning sports update. Do not miss that one, usually coming between 8:45 and 9 around that time or so. So we'll ensure to be here with you and bring you the latest from the world of football and discuss some of the topics that could interest you. Otherwise, have a blessed night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.